Hello bookworms! Today we're going to be doing a video that I am calling the 2025 State of the Series. One of my goals this year, one of my many goals, is to catch up on series, complete series that are completed, especially ones that I own, and to get current on ones that are currently being released that I'm still very interested in reading. And I thought that it would be fun to do like a state of the series, let you know the series that I am in the middle of reading, let you know some series that are new series that I would really like to start, just so that you kind of know where I am. And then at the end of the year, hopefully, there will be a lot on this list that will be completed or I will be current with. That will be up to future Kristen to make happen. So I'm going to break it down into different sections. So first I'm going to talk about the science fiction and fantasy series that I am currently reading, currently in the middle of. Then I'm going to talk about SFF series that I would like to start. Then I will talk about manga and graphic novel series that I'm currently reading. Then about manga and graphic novel series I would like to start. Then I will talk about some non-SFF or kind of low priority series that I'm in the middle of reading. A lot of these are like YA or romantasy kind of series. But yeah, let's just go ahead. We'll kick things off with the SFF series that I am currently reading. Okay, so the first couple we're going to go through pretty quickly because these are series that I am caught up on. So unless there's another book that is released, I don't have any work to do here. So first up, we have The Kingkiller Chronicle by Patrick Rothfuss. Sadly, I don't think that this is one that's going to be released this year or potentially ever, so I might just be caught up for the rest of my life, but I am up to date on this series. Next up is The Band series by Nicholas Eames. I love this series so much. I've read both books that have been released so far, and it's been a really long time since we got a title for book 3, but this one I'm kind of hopeful that maybe we'll hear news about soon. For some reason, I thought maybe potentially 2025 could be the year. I don't know what it was that led me to believe that, if I saw a post or if that was just me wishing that it'll come about, but either way, I'm up to date on this one and very much looking forward to book 3. Next up is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I'm counting this one in here because Brandon has said that he was going to write a sequel to Warbreaker. However, when he did the State of the Sanderson, it was not in the plans at all, and those plans went through like the 2030s, like late 2030s, so we'll see if we're getting a sequel to this one, but up till now I'm caught up and I would really like a sequel to Warbreaker. Next up is the Threads of Power series by Victoria Schwab. Very much looking forward to the second book in this series. I love the A Darker Shade of Magic series, Shades of Magic, and I've really enjoyed the first book of the next series as well, so really looking forward to the next one. I don't think it's coming this year since we're getting Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, which I cannot wait to read, but yeah, I will absolutely pick up book 2 whenever this is announced. I would not be surprised if we do another read along on World Hoppers. A couple of us had reread the original trilogy and we did some live shows discussing them, and then we also read the new book and we did a live show discussing this one as well. I'm probably gonna actually watch that as like a refresher before going into book 2, but it was a lot of fun. All of us really love this series, so caught up here. And then finally, I am caught up on the Legends and Lattes series by Travis Baldree. There is a third book that is being released in October called Brigands and Bread Knives, and I will definitely be reading that one as soon as it comes out. That one, I actually do have one to look forward to for this year, but again, I'm caught up. I've read this one, Bookshops and Bone Dust, and I also read the short story Goblins in Great Coats. Very short, but it was fun. Next up is the Raria Revelations series by Michael J. Sullivan. I am up to book 3. These are bind-ups. So I read Theft of Swords, which is a bind-up of books 1 and 2, and then this one, the second one, Rise of Empire, is a bind-up of books 3 and 4. I'm really hoping to get to this one in either February or March because I really enjoyed the first 2 books in the series. Next up, we have the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. I read the first book, The Blade Itself, in February, sorry. I read it in February. I really loved it, and I'm really looking forward to continuing on with the series. I will probably read book 2 in March, then I'm just gonna keep going in the First Law worlds. Next up is Mistborn Era 2. So I have read books 1 through 3. This actually is the third book, Bands of Mourning, because we haven't gotten a leather bound for book 4, The Lost Metal, just yet, but that is the only book that I have left to read in the series. So this one I would really like to read and complete soon. As I've been saying, I just don't want the series to end, but I do feel like I need to read it before I pick up Wind and Truth, which is actually the next book on here. So Stormlight Archive, I have read 4 books in the series plus the novellas, and all I have to do is read Wind and Truth, but I would really like to read The Lost Metal before I do so. Andrew's actually reading Wind and Truth now, and it's like the first time that he's read a Stormlight book before for me. And it's so weird because he's used to being able to tell me like everything that's happening and like talk about the book while he's reading it, but this time he has to like keep everything to himself. So it's a totally different experience. And when I read it, I'll finally be able to talk about it to him in real time, which will be fun. Next up is Keeper of the Lost Cities. The next book that I have to read is Unraveled, which is book 9.5. I've read 10 books in the series so far, which sounds like it doesn't make sense when I just said that this is book 9.5. And that's because there was also a book 8.5, which I did read. So I really just have to read this one, but I'm kind of like waiting for a release date for book 10 until picking this up because I just don't want to have to wait that long. Next up is A Song of Ice and Fire. I've read one book in the series and I'm so eager to continue on. The next book that I have to read is A Clash of Kings, and my plan for these is that I'm going to read them after I finish reading the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series by Tad Williams, thinking these will be like my next fantasy binge. Next up is the Red Rising Saga by Pierce Brown. I've read the first 3 books in the series and I had been waiting to read the second half, like the second part of the Red Rising Saga, until we had a release date for book 7, and in an interview Pierce Brown recently said that it is not coming out this year. It's likely going to come out in early 2026 or summer 2026 at the latest. So I'm probably going to catch up on the remaining books in this series toward the latter end of 2025. Next up is the Dungeon Crawler Carl series by Matt Dinneman. I love this series so much. It is so much fun. Andrew and I have been listening to these on audio. I only have a physical copy of book 1, which is why this is the one that I'm holding up, but we've actually read 3 books in the series. I'm definitely hoping to catch up. There's a lot more, and I think the books get longer and longer, so I feel like it'll take a while since there's only so much time that we have to actually like listen to an audiobook together, but I'm enjoying this series immensely. Next up is Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. This is one that I really do want to make some progress on this year. I have been reading The Shadow Rising for a really long time. You can see my bookmark in there. I actually feel like I've been reading this book for years. I want to say I've read 3.5 books in the series, but I would really like to complete this, and if I could read like 2 more Wheel of Time books this year, that would be amazing. But honestly, at this point, if I just finish Shadow Rising, that in itself will be an accomplishment. Next up is The Bound and the Broken by Ryan Cahill. I read the novella in this series, The Fall, and I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of the series. I think that this is going to be an all-time favorite for me, and I'm excited that there are so many of them that I can binge read and just get totally immersed in the world. These books get longer and longer as they keep going, and there's a new one that's coming out in March, so I'm not sure when I'm going to get to these, but they are a high priority for me this year. Next up is the Bone Season series by Samantha Shannon. So technically, I only have one more book to read to be caught up, but The Dark Mirror does come out on February 25th. We could say I have 2 books depending on when this video gets posted. I do plan on reading this 4th book very soon, and I will probably read Dark Mirror not long after it's published, and then I will join the camp of waiting so long between books. I don't know how some people went years with the cliffhangers that these end on. I'm really grateful that I haven't had to do that, but I am about to put myself in that boat because every time I finish one of these, I'm like, I need to read the next one to see what's gonna happen. So that ability to get instant gratification by continuing on is about to come to an end, but it'll be worth it because these are really excellent. And then lastly is the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. I have read 2 novels in the series and I've read 2 novellas. So the next book that I'm up to is Demon in White. I actually just finished the second novella, the one that takes place between books 2 and 3 a day ago. So I think my next audiobook is probably going to be Demon in White. Okay, moving on to SFF series that I would like to start this year. So first up, this one is like kind of a technicality because I actually have read this book, The Lies of Locke Lamora, but I read it like 10 years ago and I need to reread it before I can continue on with the rest of the series. So that's why this is on my series to start, because I feel like I need just a complete refresher before going into this one. And then the same thing goes for the Expanse series. I really need to reread Leviathan Wakes before I dive in and start reading the rest of the series. One good thing about this one is that it is completed, so that at least is a plus. I was actually looking at Goodreads the other day because my brother and I had been talking about the Expanse series, and I was telling him, I can't believe that I read this first book 9 years ago. That makes me feel so old. Next up is the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series by Tad Williams. If I have not started this book by the time this video is posted, I'm gonna need to like boo myself or something, because this is one that Alexa and I are buddy reading, and we had been kind of like putting it off a little bit just for like various reasons, but we said that we're gonna start it this week, this next upcoming week, and she told me that she actually already started reading it this morning, so now I really need to get on it. I had better have picked this up by the the time this video goes live. Next up is the A Time of Dragons series by Philip C. Quantrell. This one's actually a duology, and because I feel like the beginning half of my year is already so stacked, this is probably going to be like a late spring, early summer read for me. Then we have Silo. This one is super high priority for me. The first book is Wool. I love this show like more than words can say, and I really need to know what is happening, what's going to happen next. So this one is super high priority. I'm really hoping to read this one either the end of February or early March. Then we have Fool's Errand, which is the first book in the Tawny Man trilogy by Robin Hobb. This is another one that is very high priority for me. Really looking forward to revisit Fitz and the Fool, and I'm thinking that this is probably going to be like a March-April read for me. Next up is Shadow of the Leviathan by Robert Jackson Bennett. The first book is The Tainted Cup. This one is like a fantasy murder mystery, which is so up my alley, so I have a feeling that I'm going to end up loving this one, and I would really like to read it before book 2 comes out in April. Then we have Malazan Book of the Fallen, the first book being Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. This is another one where I'm really looking forward to reading this, and for some reason I just really want to kind of read it around my birthday, so this will be like end of July, early August read for me. Again, I don't know why, but like I think it's because I'm really excited about it, so I just wanted it to be like a birthday read. Then we have the Library Trilogy by Mark Lawrence. The third and final book is coming out in April, so this one is really high priority for me. I would love if I could read this in probably March, because I feel like I keep saying I'm going to read everything in February and we're already halfway through the month, so that's clearly not going to happen. This one, I mean, just as a lover of books and libraries, I feel like I'm going to end up loving this series. Then we have Empire of the Vampire by Jake Kristoff. I'm so excited to dive into this series. The third and final book is coming out in November, so my goal is to read this one probably either early or late September, then read book 2 in October. Then I'll be able to pick up book 3 as soon as it releases. Then we have the Hierarchy series by James Islington. The first book is The Will of the Many. So many people rave about this book. I have a feeling I'm going to love it, and we finally have a release date for book 2, which is October. So I'm thinking that this one might be a September read. And the same goes for the Last Legacy series by James Logan. Book 2 is going to be released in October, so hoping that this one could be a September read. Next on my list is The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. Alexa and I have this on our list of potential buddy reads for the year, so I could foresee us having this as a pick probably in the summer or latter half of the year, since we are doing Dragonbone Chair first, and we're kind of discussing maybe making our next 2 buddy reads just the next 2 books in the series. And if that's the case, since we're doing it bi-monthly, this one probably wouldn't be on the table until July, August. And then finally, I would like to start the Songs of Chaos series by Michael R. Miller. Ideally, I would really like to read this first book, Ascendant, before the Broken Binding announces their sequel special edition for the next book in the series. Not sure when I'm gonna read it, but that is the goal. Read it before the next special edition book. Now that I'm like being lazy and I'm kind of trapped here between these giant stacks of books that I've surrounded myself with, I'm going to put images on screen for the manga and graphic novel series that I'm talking about now. So starting off with manga and graphic novels that I'm currently in the middle of reading, I am caught up on the Vox Machina comic series. Really looking forward to getting more of these, but I don't know when that's happening. I'm also caught up on the My Happy Marriage manga. Volume 5 is scheduled to release in April, and I'm definitely going to be picking that up like the day that it gets delivered to my house. Then I have Full Metal Alchemist. I've read 11 volumes of this. I'm up to volume 12, and I would really like to finish this series before the end of the year, but it's tough because I only have the hardcover physical copies, which are kind of heavy and not ones that I would really like to carry with me on the train, and I cannot find the series digitally or any kind of breakdown as to what's included, because the Full Metal editions include like 1.5 volumes of the regular volumes, so I just like don't even know where to start if I were to like buy the digital version. Then we have the Avatar: The Last Airbender comics. I've read 10 of the 12 released works, so I have to catch up. I have to read the Uncle Iroh graphic novel, which I actually just got out of the library, so that I will probably read this week. And then I also have to read Team Avatar Tales, and then I will be caught up. And actually, same thing goes for Witch Hat Atelier. I've read 12 of the 13 volumes, but volume 13 just came off hold for me at the library. So I will, again, read that this week and then I will be caught up. Next up is Yona of the Dawn. I am like truly flying through this series. I've read 12 of the 43 volumes that are currently out. So I have no doubt that this one I will definitely be caught up on by the end of the year. And then ideally I'll be finishing it as it's released since it will be ending soon, which is pretty exciting. Next up is One Piece. I am so slow going with One Piece. I was telling Alexa, like, I've read more Yona of the Dawn in 2 months than I've read of One Piece in a year. So I have read 10 volumes of One Piece. There are like 110 volumes. It's going to take me forever to read this series, but I'm going to continue to like just slowly make my way through it. And then lastly is a graphic novel. So Saga, I've read 7 of the 11 currently released graphic novels. I would like to catch up. And then I think volume 12 is coming out in April and I do have it pre-ordered. So if I could get caught up before then, that would be good. But I am definitely more focused on manga over graphic novels at the moment. Then manga or graphic novel series to start. Number 1 on my list is definitely Inuyasha. This is a completed manga, which is very appealing. I love starting series that are completed, being able to binge read them, and then just check it off my list, move it to the completed tab on my spreadsheet, and feel very satisfied. So this is one that I'll likely look into as soon as I finish reading Yona of the Dawn. And then in the same vein, I also want to read the manga of Snow White with the Red Hair. I watched the anime of this one too, and I say too because I watched the anime of Yona, and I believe that the manga surpasses what has been shown in the anime, so I would love to read this and see where the story goes beyond it, and it'll just be fun to revisit because I did really like the anime a lot. Currently has 26 volumes and it's ongoing. And then next up are some lower priority series that I am currently in the middle of reading, just to, you know, give you the full scope of everything. So first up is the Eldest Curses series by Cassandra Clare. The reason that this one is low priority is because I am caught up on it, and Cassandra Clare announced that book 3 is, I think it's not coming out until after she finishes publishing the Wicked Powers trilogy. So that's 3 books. So it sounds like it's going to be years before we get the next one. And yeah, that's why it's low priority. Next is the Chronicles of Castellane by Cassandra Clare. This one I'm also caught up on, but there is a second book that is coming out in March. The reason that I have this one on the lower priority list is because I thought that it was a duology, but it's not. It's a trilogy. I definitely prefer being able to read the books closer together just so I don't forget and I don't have to reread. I really enjoyed this first book. I am really excited to read the second book, but I'm not prioritizing it over some series that are already completed. Next up is the Well Met series by Jen DeLuca. This is a Renaissance Fair romance series. It is my all-time favorite romance series. I love it so much. But the reason that this one is low priority is because book 5 has not been written yet, although Jen DeLuca did finally tease that she is working on book 5 on Instagram the other day. So literally the second that that comes out, I will read it, but there is no release date or anything as of yet. So that's why it's on this list. And then speaking of Jen DeLuca, I'm also caught up on her Boneyard Key book, and I'm absolutely reading book 2 as soon as it comes out. This one actually does have a release date. It's coming out in October. So me and my 2 friends who buddy read this first book together are going to be buddy reading book 2 literally as soon as it comes out. All 3 of us cannot wait for this one. Ghost romances just really hit. Next up for me is the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. So I'm one of the people that did really enjoy Fourth Wing, and I enjoyed Iron Flame, but I'm just not like as excited as other people are about it. From what I understand, people have said that it was like a bit confusing to jump into this one because there were characters that like nobody seemed to remember. So I'm not really in a rush to read it. The series is going to be 5 books long. So this is one where I want to wait until we have a release date for book 4 before I really think about picking this one up. I might impulsively pick it up at some point during the year. That's a definite possibility, but as of right now, it's just not like super high priority for me. And then lastly is the When in Rome series by Sarah Adams. I really enjoyed this series as well. Both of the first books were so good. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. I actually had thought that this was the last book in the series, but I just heard in a video from Liv from Liv's Library that there actually is going to be a 4th book. So thankfully, like, you know, it's not a big deal to read romance far apart. So the reason that this one is low priority is because I listed everything that is high priority, but I wouldn't be surprised if I get to this one sooner rather than later. It'll be a good book to read like in between some of the really long fantasy that I have on my TBR. Okay, so that is it. That is the state of the series for 2025. We have so many series on this list, and if I am able to complete a lot of these, that would be great, but with the amount that I want to start, I can't imagine that my spreadsheet numbers are going to shift drastically, so we shall see what happens. Let me know what some of your favorite series are. Let me know if there's anything that you feel like I should prioritize that I listed, and that is all that I have for this video, so I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!